My name is Nathaniel Hancock, and I would not consider myself a professional disc golf player. However, I have been playing disc golf for about 3.5 years now. I've been a part of 3 different disc golf clubs, and I've competed in several minis, several small competitions as part of those disc golf clubs. When you first walk on the disc golf course, you're headed for the first tee pad where you throw your drive, which is your first shot. As you are getting closer to the basket, you're aiming for your second shot to go from somewhere in the middle to up close to the basket, and that is called an approach. And then any shot that is pretty close to the basket, that your reasonable goal is to make it in the basket on that shot, is called a putt. Every hole on every course has a par value. Par is kind of the score that you're aiming for, the score you're supposed to get on that hole. In disc golf, by far the majority of holes have a par value of 3. When you are on a par 3 hole and you make it in the basket in 3 shots, then you got par on that hole. That's what you're supposed to get. If you make it in 1 fewer shot, which on a par 3 would be in 2 shots, that is called a birdie. Then if you somehow manage to make your very first throw, your drive, into the basket, that is known as an ace. Regardless of the par, it's just a hole-in-one. And if you make it one above par, that is known as a bogey. Anything higher than that just goes off of bogey. 2 over is a double bogey, 3 over is a triple bogey, and so on. Very important 2 terms are Hyzer and Anhyzer. A Hyzer shot is the most common. Basically, every beginner is going to throw a Hyzer. For a backhanded player, whatever their dominant hand is, it's going to fade in the opposite direction. An Anhyzer is the exact opposite. An Anhyzer is when it fades in the direction of their dominant hand. And all of these are for backhanded throwers. There are several different techniques on how to throw the disc, but the most common is backhand. It's how everybody throws a frisbee, and so that's the more natural way to throw a disc. So if you think about a backhand in tennis, that's the way that frisbees are thrown. Then tennis also has a forehand, the most common type of tennis swing. In disc golf, that is also commonly referred to as a flick. So for a flick, the directions are reversed. So for left hand or right hand, it's going to go the same direction as their dominant hand for a hyzer. Forehand and backhand are by far the most frequently used, but there's also one called Tomahawk. That is an overhand throw, like you would throw a baseball. Sometimes it causes the disc to flip over and glide down. That style is used if you got a tight window of trees right in front of you, or whatever the obstacle is, and you need to get through that tight window, and then it opens up after that. The other way, if you have it at a certain direction, you can cause the disc to start rolling. There are definitely some disc golf terms that are highly regional, terms that you will never hear around here, but if you go to another part of the country, you will hear these terms. And there are terms that people from other parts of the country could come here and they might not know what you're talking about. Definitely the most regionalized term that I can think of for around here is the Craighead thump, and that one you will hear very frequently around here, probably never anywhere else, because it specifically refers to our local disc golf course at Craighead Forest Park. If you have never played that course before, there are trees everywhere. No matter if you're a beginner, if you've been playing for a few years like I have, or if you've been playing for 20 years, you are going to hit a tree at Craighead Forest Park. And the telltale thump that your disc makes when it hits the tree is called the Craighead thump, and it is famous around here. There are a lot of terms in disc golf, and most of them aren't necessary to play in the game, but there are a lot of fun terms that you hear around the disc golf course. Here are just a few of them. We talked about an Anhyzer. A lot of disc golf players just call that an Annie for short. When you're throwing a lot of roller discs, you're going bowling. off the fairway where there's lots of thick grass and stuff is a lot of times referred to as cabbage or spinach. On a lot of disc golf baskets, there's a yellow ring at the top of the basket, which is referred to as the chastity belt. And when your disc hits that chastity belt and just makes that sound that just makes you cringe, it's a clank. When you throw the disc exactly the right height, but you miss it to the left or to the right, that's called a flyby. What is referred to around here as a hyzer bomb. Some places it's referred to as a grenade. It's when you throw a shot that is very high and has a very hard hyzer line, which means it cuts hard down to the left. A grenade is more accidental, whereas a hyzer bomb, you're trying to do that to get around an obstacle. Lumberjacking is when it seems like you're hitting every tree in the forest. Sometimes you can even be referred to as a lumberjack. When you smack a disc right into a tree, I guess some people refer to it as pringled. It's more commonly heard around here as a taco because of how it hits the tree. Sometimes when someone throws a disc and it looks like it's going absolutely perfect and everybody says, "Oh, nice shot," and then all of a sudden clunk, hits a tree, you have niced that person. When you hit several trees on the same throw, that's a pinball. When you throw a shot that absolutely does not go the direction you wanted it to go, and disc golf players have to deal with this a lot, but that's called a shank. When somehow you throw a disc and there's lots of trees, leaves, and somehow you get through all of that, that was a sneak. In my opinion, it's pretty important to know some of those basic terms that we went over at the start, just so you can get a more complete understanding of the basics of the game. A lot of these slang terms are more just for fun, and as you get better at disc golf, it's kind of fun to start using these terms, and it kind of makes you feel like you're growing in the game and in your level, in your skill level and knowledge of the game. If you can just learn those basic terms, that's all you really need to know to get started.